Okay, let's start. Okay, my name is Evgeny Bednyakov. I represent the Stanislavski Electro Theatre, starting with last year. It may become a quantum theatre. I don't know what it is yet. We'll talk to our artistic director later about it. Okay.
Классический, не квантовый.
Так, итак, по порядку.
Okay. Dmitry Chermashevtsev, Senior Research Fellow at the Russian Quantum Center, Head of Quantum Technology Group in Rosatom. Hello, everyone.
Kirill
Lachmansky. Did I get it right?
Руководитель научной группы
Head of Scientific Group of Quantum Computing using cold calcium ions, whatever this means. It's Chinese to me. Okay, who knows? Anton Gugler, Director General of the Q-App company.
And Dmitry
Darensky, Head of Industrial Cybersecurity. Yeah, it's not quantum, it's silicon, rather. Okay, we are all from the quantum world, in a way. So we read some news so that we kind of see what is related to the quantum technology, quantum physics, and the quantum world, in a way. Okay, the first piece of news. Quantum magic and reality. Why atoms go through the space. Okay, what is quantum reality? What is that? Okay, it is teleportation available. Okay, let me kickstart. You know, we had Richard Feynman, a Nobel laureate in physics. He is one of the guys who, in the West, put forward the quantum computer concept. So he said at some time that if you think that you understand quantum physics, you don't understand quantum physics. Okay. Well, you shouldn't have any false kind of hopes. You'll not understand what a quantum theatre is because we don't understand what quantum reality is either. Well, talking about this specific piece of news, this is about one interesting so our world, by the way, is quantum world. We are kind of beyond the normal quantum laws. We live following the physical world laws and the laws of the Russian Federation. Okay, on a serious note, these little things, well, not like us, but really small, like particles of the light. For instance, 1 billion or 1 trillion photons, for instance, moves from the lamp you're looking at. So we cannot see all these photons, but taken together, they let us kind of see each other and the things around us. So these things we see are just the reflected photons. Okay, so these little kind of photons, electrons, and other small things, they behave not like us at all. And we are here in Luzhniki. This is a great fest going on, but unfortunately, at the same time, we cannot run experiments in the lab or kind of start some performance rehearsal in the theatre or do some other things to have fun. But the quantum things, they can do it. Well, yeah, they can do many things, by the way. They can be connected when separated by huge distances. So you talk about atom teleportation. When you talk about teleportation in general, well, people often imagine things like that we can easily move from here, well, in some time. I have a question, so that we move to some place we want to be. Okay, a human being. So human beings are made of atoms, right? And atoms are made of this quants. No, we cannot say this is about peace. A quant is a minimal portion of something. It can be electromagnetic field. It can be a type of energy. or movement. So this is just a quantum is just the minimal portion. Yeah, a quantum of a pie. Yeah, it depends on whether you like the pies. If you like the pies, then your quanta will be big. Okay, so I understand they can teleport quanta. Yeah, they can. Yeah, you know, this quantum objects, they kind of feel each other at great differences, like lovers. Yeah, sure. You know, love, I think, has something related to quantum things. Who knows what chemical processes happen there? So this is to be further investigated. So in this quantum world, we can take two atoms. One can be put somewhere far away from us, and the other one could be somewhere here in a lab or in Luzhniki. And we might run an experiment in such a way that the features of the atom, and the atom has different characteristics, like it can be in some energy, it can have some energy. If it's a photon, it can have like polarization or some other stuff. And kind of irrespective of whether the distance is huge or not, we technically might run an experiment. The condition of the atom we have here with us, we can move this kind of state for the other atom, which is really away from us. So this is not teleportation. This is about connection, like twins, between the twins. Not exactly. Okay, let me comment on this. So scientists, you know, they are clever guys, and they really want to get money for the equipment and experiments and computers. So that's why they have to, you know, challenge. That's why quite simplistic things we do understand. We call them with some strange names, yeah, like clickbait things. But well, it's true to an extent. Well, from the point of view of quantum interpretation, we are not moving atoms. We are moving the condition of the atoms. Well, it's not someone we move, but rather his emotion. Okay, if I have a twin brother, do we have some, I don't know, same atoms? Well, you do, most likely. Yeah, overall, I'd like to tell you that atoms, the atoms themselves, they are more or less the same. We are made of the same atoms, but they are built into different configurations. Okay, my brother, say, is in Saratov, so if I drink some water, may he feel that I've drinking something? Okay, well, we have some limits to quantum physics application. Well, for some objects, for the micro objects, this is going to work, but at some time, this object becomes too large. There are too many atoms. The system becomes too complex, and then this quantum magic no longer works. So there are some limits here. Okay, I suggest we wind up our teleportation discussion because we haven't yet discussed it completely. And just imagine, you have two objects. Okay, one of them doesn't have any specific features, and the other one has these features. So we take these features, and we move them to the other object somewhere far away. So this far away object. So the first one might be destroyed, for instance, completely. We will somehow kind of at a large kind of distance, we just moved all the information when we destroy it, and we just teleport. This way we teleport this object somewhere far away. Well, similarly, there is a paradox. We can move something instantly, like what we want to do. We want to teleport a human being somewhere, yeah, somewhere to Mars through the cyberspace. Yeah, teleport to your country house. Yeah, this teleportation happens instantly. We don't spend time to teleport. And here's the paradox. Similarly, okay, we can teleport humans, right? But this is really problematic. When we, as Kirill mentioned, when we go through the quantum teleportation, we are not moving kind of classical objects or matter. We have two objects with identical structure, and the features of one object are just moved to the other object. So, so we just provide the features from one to the other. It's more difficult. It's more difficult for a human. What about apes? Yeah, for apes it's also maybe for apes it's easier. Sometimes it's difficult to say what kind of sets them apart. Okay, talking about teleporting a human being, then if we are serious about it, we should split a human into atoms, build the same set of atoms somewhere far away, and then the information on every atom should be transferred to that cloud of new atoms, and then we just assemble this guy back. And then we will indeed teleport people. But frankly speaking, I believe that, well, to split someone into atoms and then bring him or her back would be more difficult than to understand the quantum mechanics and build quantum computers. On the other hand, how many students do you have? Well, yeah, we can experiment, I agree. So, and if we are successful, we can take, if I don't have any more students, we can take a couple of your students. Why not? Yeah, we can jointly kind of experiment on this. Yeah, we can open a vacancy, yeah, for a guy who would like to participate in quantum teleportation. Okay. Okay, I got it. Okay, maybe we are the only ones to have this computer. Okay, this is Kamersan. The Russian scientists made a 50-qubit quantum computer. Okay, so what is a qubit? Okay, Kirill likes quantum computers, so what would you say? Okay, thank you very much. And the next piece of news. K, quantum technology. Why do humans need a supercomputer? Okay, let's take them one by one. Okay, obviously, our life today is the consequence of the technologies we have. And the technologies we are using now, they are limited. But the demand for, say, computing is growing and growing. And the classical computing kind of is lagging behind this demand from the industry. What kind of demand is it? Okay, to have more calculations, to mine more cryptocurrency. Yeah, just for instance. And then we understand that we need new technologies. And in this kind of field of new technologies, you might consider quantum technologies. And they have three pillars: quantum computing, quantum communications, and quantum sensors. So these are the. So what you've talked about would be a quantum computing. Okay, we have the quantum computer. This is a device which is using the laws of quantum physics to deal with some algorithms. What kind of algorithms? This is subject to standalone discussion. Well, okay, I'm scared by this discussion, by the way. Okay, but the idea is that in quantum computing, we have a qubit as a measurement of information. So we can implement qubits using various physical objects. So in the first piece of news, they talked about using ions. You might also use... And what is an ion, by the way? Well, this is a particle, and it's also a building block for us, by the way. Well, it's kind of an element of our matter. So quantum computing will let you perform a set of tasks which might be sped up compared to classical computing. And in this context, it's really interesting. Well, some of these tasks we are discussing might be really useful, not only for cybersecurity, but also for our everyday life, like to optimize things. Say, to reduce traffic for Yandex Taxi. Okay, are you talking about traffic jams, or are you talking about some other issues? Okay, this is a joke. Yeah, quantum computers might help us find new materials, new things. Okay, let's go back to qubits. This kind of elements. I understand InfoSec and IT. Okay, I understand. We have signal, we have no signal, zeros and ones. So this binary logic. Okay, we have a switch, either on or off. What is a qubit? I have a switch, and every time I switch on one lamp or the second lamp or third lamp, so how, does it work randomly? What's the difference between it and this binary logic, 1 and 0?
A qubit is a two-tier quantum mechanical system. Oh yes, it certainly has become clear. No, we still have zeros and ones, but the 0 and 1 are in a superposition. There's a certain dependency between the 0 and 1. If we imagine this geometrically, if a bit is 0 and 1, then a qubit is a sphere. Well, that's super sophisticated. Please raise your hands who understands what he's talking about. Okay, we've got quite a few. Okay, we have 3 people in the room. There's an anecdote when Professor Landau read his lecture in the Department of Physics, and from the back desk someone is shouting, "Professor Landau, why do you read all this to us? Do you appreciate that no one except a couple of people at the front desk who understand what you're saying?" And he said that it only takes one Professor Landau to change theoretical physics. This may be an example of a superposition. We don't know if quantum computer is there or maybe it's not. Well, there's a good example. There's a company called Google. They are also building their own quantum computers. And they were the first who tried to demonstrate what is called quantum advantage. When it would take hundreds and thousands of years to solve a particular task with an ordinary computer, it takes a much smaller time with a quantum computer. And they were able to solve such a problem. But in 3 days' time, there's an article out, and they were comparing their computer with IBM, and IBM issues an article that it's not true. They say that they can use their computer to model, but we can't show you how. And in 6 months, the Chinese demonstrate how they can solve this problem using their computer, which is GPU-based. And so the joke was that the computer advantage of Google was indeed a quantum process, because we don't know if it exists or not. No, but really, in Russia, we do have quantum computers. Who knows that Russia does have quantum computers? Great, that's half of the room. In Russia, there's more than one. Russia has many quantum computers. There's at least 5.
Есть действительно другие квантовые компьютеры. Тут стоит отметить то, что я опять немножечко подушню, Дим, если не позволишь.
And yes, I will play a bore if you allow me. Yes, please. Qubits can be done in various platforms. For example, you can use ions. Can you use railway platforms to do qubits? Perhaps. You said that we have quite a few quantum computers in Russia, but do they have any practical benefits? Well, they are just there. You love a woman because she's there, and it's the same with a quantum computer. Well, is there any practical application for these quantum computers? The computers that exist are currently experimental, but their capacity grows year in, year out. And it's not that they follow the same architecture. They use multiple architectures. Cyril talked about ions, and in other configurations they could be atoms, but the more powerful they become, the more practical usage they would bring. The main practical benefit of them at the time is that they are practically possible and their capability is growing year in, year out. Well, I think that the talk about quantum calculations is indeed an important topic. This problem has not been solved globally yet because the quantum computers that exist elsewhere on our planet, they can address some problems better than ordinary computers, but all of those problems are not on the practical side, so to say. And let me finish my thesis. The format that the quantum computers development now has is very similar to ordinary computers. You remember the times when computers occupied buildings and their performance was worse than the modern calculator. So, yes, time will come when they will be able to solve practical tasks, but the quantum leap doesn't happen overnight. So we'll use quantum computers for mining. Well, I don't think we'll be mining, but you can try and steal some Bitcoin by decrypting hashes. But then Anton Guglia with QApp and positive technologies would come to the rescue of the Bitcoin owners. Well, we should note that aside from the development of quantum computers, we should also expand the pool of problems that quantum computers can solve. I don't want you to have an impression that it is a piece of hardware that is powerful than anything else. It's not so. A quantum computing will give advantage in certain classes of tasks, and these classes of tasks have to be expanded. And this is what the experimental computers are used. Theoretical physics comes across practical applications, oil and gas, genetics, biology, etc. All of them look for quantum calculations, for quantum computing. And this is happening exactly because quantum computers are already there. There's another interesting phenomenon that once the quantum computers started to appear, and with the first attempts of implementing quantum advantage, we can see that mathematicians have become much more active. Mathematics is an excellent science with a lot of things that can be further studied. But the optimization problems that quantum computers can now address were studied 70 years ago, but they did not receive too much attention. But the emergence of quantum computers resulted in the fact that many mathematicians started thinking of how to use conventional computers to solve problems. Can you write music on quantum computers? Well, today we can use a neural network to write a rock song or a song in another genre. Well, the point is that you don't want to drive nails with a microscope. A quantum computer has a certain set of applications that are not addressed so well by conventional computers. Well, let me explain it like this. When conventional computers were developed, people thought that you would need a few clusters, a few data centers to cover all the tasks that this city requires in terms of calculations. Essentially, a large calculator for Moscow. No one thought that in 60 or 70 years we will carry the power of those computers in our palm. So the question of what to do with a quantum computer, on the one hand, it's a question to the physicists or engineers who are or are not capable to develop a technology. And on the other hand, it's a question to the industrial partners, to futurists, to foresight thinkers. What questions they can come up with so that this technology could solve them? Well, teleport was invented by French writer Jules Verne, but it hasn't yet been implemented.
Я не понимаю, почему там...
What I find curious in this piece of news, I don't understand what Albert Einstein has to do with it. There are many scientists who could be put in this article, but I don't understand why Einstein. Well, Einstein, of course, has a lot to do with quantum physics. He was the first to apply the hypothesis of Max Planck, which started the quantum physics. But it's not about quantum computing and not about technology. And by the way, quantum mechanics this year celebrates its 100th anniversary, and I invite all of you to celebrate. Okay, let's drink to quantum.
КРБК тренды, почему здесь?
Okay. It's a question to RBC, the media resource that published the article, why they have Einstein there. Another article by the same publishing house, Appeal Against Death, How Quantum Technologies Changed Medicine. Well, I like the titles. They create hope and fear at the same time. And again, the picture is not very clear what that is. Is that a piece of CT, computer tomography, or is it some Christmas decoration?
Говорить вот с точки зрения того, что вот квантовый компьютер вот на данный момент...
Saying that quantum computers can do this and that, well, there's a class of problems to model certain chemical reactions where a quantum computer would work in synergy with a conventional computer. Okay, suppose we have a lot of money and we want to invest in real estate. There are 10,000 of houses, and we've got to understand in which ones we want to invest, in which we don't want to invest. And we come up with a mathematical formula, some science that we've got to optimize. And we've got to find some optimum to have the maximum return with minimum risk. Okay. Make as much money as we can and lose as little as possible. And so the answer to this problem would be a sequence of zeros and ones. Zeros for the houses we don't want to buy, ones for the houses we do want to buy. To address this task on a conventional computer, we have to analyze 2 to the power of 10,000 options. Even if we unite all electronic devices in a single network, we'll never be able to solve this problem for the lifetime of the universe. But you've got to invest in real estate, don't you? You want to make money, right? And so, who has a lot of money? Of course, those are quantum scientists. Who else? And they started to develop a quantum computer which, in theory, could solve a problem like this. So problems where you've got to analyze large number of variants that you cannot solve in reasonable time in conventional computing. And there you can run various algorithms, variation algorithms or otherwise. That's a good example of how you can use systems like this. So essentially, it's about creating new pills and new materials with quantum technology. Yes, but still the title, A Pill Against Death. Well, look, COVID is not so far away, and rather than develop a cure, we sat in a lockdown and waited. What the problem was? Well, what is a cure? What is a drug? It's a molecule, and it's a molecule of protein. And if you Google a molecule of protein, you will see that it's quite a sophisticated structure. It's a ribbon that is twisted in a particular way. So, indeed, the performance of a drug depends on the geometry of that ribbon. And if we want to reproduce it in a lab, we've got to understand what structure we want to obtain, and then we will be able to produce it. How do we understand what structure can we produce? Well, a good answer is that let's try and model it with a computer. But if we use a conventional computer to model, then we'll have to look at all the potential variants, and those variants are too many. It's the same as investments in houses. Too many options, too many variants, and which one is right, we don't know. And we need to analyze every one to choose the right one. Well, neural networks can do part of the job for us. A pre-trained model could come up with some idea of the target configuration, but we are very limited in what we know. We still have a lot that we don't know. And by the way, the article is about personalized drugs. Yes, if you flow through this clickbait title, the article is about the potential of quantum computing in designing drugs. And what it implies is that quantum computing is not a Swiss knife solution. It cannot solve everything. It can only solve some classes of problems, and will solve some problems with quantum computers, and that would be faster, but not all. Well, I think it's a good article. I think that the authors here confuse or bring together quantum computing and neural networks. And in fact, quantum technology is very close to IT, because the idea currently is that sophisticated quantum systems would be difficult to control without AI. Are we not building Skynet? No, we're building something bigger than that. I think that the idea is that quantum computing is like an extra degree of freedom for calculations, for computing. Well, say, big business, I don't know if it's pharma or oil and gas or finance, it doesn't matter for them what they can use to calculate. If quantum does better than what they have, it's enough for them to take a closer look. And currently what's happening in the world, and as well as in Russia, the business is starting looking at quantum computing to see whether they can solve certain tasks faster. And is there such a notion as the cost of computation? Has anyone assessed that? The business is about money. And say a conventional computer has the price of X or the cost of X. And what is the cost of the quantum computer? Well, currently it's not about the cost so much as the new approaches to computation. And secondly, the consumerization of access. How accessible it will be to use such computing. Because the business currently is used to cloud calculations and on-prem cluster calculations. And quantum computers are going towards that. They can be used in a cloud. And so the business can use a remote quantum computer. It's not necessary for them to buy a quantum computer. But what operating systems do they use? Do they use Russian-developed operating systems? For many people, a computer is hardware, an operating system, and some software. A quantum computer, does it run approximately like this? Do they write operating systems for that? Yes, there's a programming language for quantum computers. There are some algorithms that quantum computers use. There's single qubit and dual qubit operations. And we break down the algorithm into those items. So essentially, that's what a quantum computer is. It's a set of gates and qubits and the interaction between them. And a conventional computer is like a part of a quantum computing. It's like a subset of quantum computing. Okay. And when you say gates, what comes to your mind? Because a gate translates into Russian as a valve, and I imagined a plumber who is turning those valves. Well, I guess there's quick business value that companies see. And if the business value is better than the cost of renting the quantum computer, then yes, why not? I think that economic estimates are there, but the point is that at this point in time, quantum computers as a hardware do not generate a lot of value to the business at the moment. And well, and they do have an impact. It's just that this impact is not momentous. We've got to learn how to use it, and in parallel, quantum computers increase their performance, and cloud access is being developed. Data scientists learn to use quantum computers from their systems that are well known for them. But under the hood, in the architecture, the computational engine is very different. What you're talking about reminds me of a famous Russian cartoon.
Но вы ее не получите в ближайшие 200 лет.
And it's almost like we'll develop immortality pill, but you won't get it in a couple of 100 years. No, but then you've got to appreciate that the titles of newspaper articles are not invented by researchers. But what I'm saying is that to address a major issue, a problem, you've got to address a series of smaller problems. So currently, algorithms emerge and systems emerge that bring us closer to being able to diagnosing diseases better. It's a process that is not happening overnight.
Знаете, вот когда, почему уже много лет, на самом деле, достаточно с года 2018-2016, может быть.
And I think for a number of years already, from 2016, 2018, quite a few companies, large companies, either have partnerships with quantum groups at universities or have their own quantum teams, because they understand that at some point in time, when a large quantum computer appears, you wouldn't be able to simply take it and do a computation. You've got to have competences, and you've got to have an understanding what problems you can use a quantum computer for. I also want to mention that this area receives a lot of investment. A lot of scientists work in this area, not just in Russia, but overseas as well. There's a lot of investment in the US, in Europe, in China. Everyone is in this race to create, at some point in time, the hardware that would help solve problems quicker than in any conventional computer. Well, and staying on the subject of the immortality pill, it's also a question of who finances this research.
А кто финансирует? Так очень большой объем
Where does the money come from?
финансирования это государственной поддержки.
A lot of funding is government support. For many countries, it's a national program to create a quantum computer and to address some challenging problems that remain unsolved in medicine, in healthcare, in logistics. And Russia is a good case in point. In Russia, it's a major major national project, and quantum computing is taken forward by a large consortium of university and a group of corporations.
Но не сегодня.
Ответ есть, 42. Поехали
А
дальше.
потом уже все остальное.
Will we be able to solve the meaning of the universe? Yes, but probably we'll develop the pill first.
Для смартфонов с
The next
технологией
article.
шифрования.
In Russia, they created a messenger for smartphones with quantum encryption. Does anyone use it?
Мессенджер.
And can you please explain, why do we need a messenger with quantum encryption?
Я хотел что
Well, I thought the question would be whether I developed that messenger.
про другое
No,
сначала поговорим.
really, I think we should
Что там вообще такая за
start
защита?
from a
И от чего защита?
different subject.
Причем тут вот это квантовое шифрование и так далее.
What
Вот
is
немножко
the
про защиту и от
protection
чего.
there,
Да, мы
and why
защищаемся.
quantum
Мы
has to do with that?
с вами, а весь
So,
мир.
what is the
Что
protection is
сейчас,
about?
пытаются
What
понять. А
is the
как квантовый
world
компьютер
trying to
соотносится с
understand?
решениями задач кибербезопасности?
How
Например,
does a
усиливает
quantum
риск,
computer
если оказался
contribute
кто
to
бы это ни был, мы неудачно.
information security? If, say, an attacker gets hold of a quantum computer, do they become more powerful? And if more powerful, then how? And if it's about attacks and threats, then what kind of attacks and threats? We've talked up until now about the benefits of quantum computing, and there's
занимается очень давно уже.
a lot of
Квантовый компьютер в руках злоумышленника может ускорить
hypotheses
взлом
that say
алгоритмов.
that a quantum computer can speed up the breach of conventional encryption algorithms.
И потенциальные жертвы хакеров, и
Well,
сами
but
хакеры.
both information security and the victims and the hackers would use the same tool. Yes, but it's important to understand that it's not some special quantum computer created that doesn't want to invent immortality pills, but it would like to hack instead. It's a technology, it's a tool, and it's up to us to put it to good or bad use.
Термин такой «квантовая угроза». Да, уже
And now the cryptographic community and the world in general keeps talking about this quantum threat. So what the point here is that an attacker starts using a powerful quantum computer, high-performing quantum computer, to attack modern cryptography. And it has been proven mathematically that many encryption algorithms are not resilient to that. For example, the electronic signature. There's a special app in Russia that we use for digital signatures. Well, digital signatures are quite widespread. Mortgage deals are signed with that. The EDI is signed with that. But those are not quantum resistant. And many other encryption technologies are not quantum resistant. And it's not that this electronic signature app is bad. It's good. I like it. It's not the point. The point is that we can see a new threat. And it's a threat of the present day for data with long life cycles, and also a threat of the future. So, an article like this and others about new approaches to cybersecurity is about to learn to defend ourselves against such a threat by various approaches, whether software or hardware, the various cryptography methods, but to find a way to protect ourselves against the quantum threat. Well, as someone who has a quantum computer in my cellar, I am starting to have fears. Oh, by the way, you have a quantum computer in your cellar, and how do you control access to it? You say there are quite a few quantum computers, and who has access to them other than the scientists and researchers? Well, what is happening in Russia doesn't have a bearing to the quantum threat, because those computers computers are developed in a trusted perimeter. Rosatom, together with a group of universities, carry out a major program, and it's not about those computers attacking Russian infrastructure. That's out of the question. So when people talk about the quantum threat, what they are talking about is external threat, because quantum computers in other countries are more powerful than in Russia, and so the quantum threat can come from there, depending on how you want to use the quantum computer, for the good or for the bad. So what is happening is an analysis of the existing encryption algorithms and technologies to protect against that. And these technologies, you can come up with a problem that would be difficult even for a quantum computer. If we look retrospectively, the idea of breaking encryption with a quantum computer came about in 1985, when Peter Shor came up with the Shor algorithm, a famous algorithm for quantum computing. So when first quantum computers started emerging, 2 qubits, it happened only a few years after this algorithm was published. I think 1998, it was when Harvard and other universities started having first 2-qubit computers. And I think it's for a reason. There is a certain threat emerging from quantum computing, and you've got to have a shield against that.
Okay, we have a good computer, but his twin, someone else has a worse type of computer, the bad one. Okay, I mean that now, at this moment of time, we can see the evolution of cryptography and revolution in some other fields, because we are also observing the kind of revolution of approaches to computing. So we would use classical architectures. Now we have quantum architectures, and this pushed further data protection solutions, because this kind of prompted new attacks. Are they being kind of tried now? Well, we don't know. Will they try? Well, possibly. So we believe that quantum technologies, they are neither good nor bad. So maybe some people present here are using quantum technologies. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So we have some good guys here. Okay, which is the strongest one? We don't know. We don't know, by the way. Well, we know of those who are published openly. We know which one is the strongest. The Money Quantum, they have 56 working qubits, and the quantum volume is 2 to the degree of 20. Continuum, I think it's in the States. Yeah, in the States. Well, I mentioned we don't know. Well, because as a matter of fact, there is some probability that a strong quantum computer will be launched somewhere, will be working, but no one will know about it. I mean, it will not be mentioned in the public media. It will be working for some specific targets, and maybe these targets are related to the new attacks. Possibly. Well, I'm not talking about the message of the previous thing. I'm talking about the quantum technology. May I comment on what you said briefly? That is open or closed? Yeah, this is a really important topic. Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. So they have a stronger computer than the Kirill's. Okay. This is a right message, that they have developers, kind of hidden developers. In the IBM, they have this open quantum developers, and this is published in open public media. And they also have some concealed developers, and we don't know what's going on there. And it's not only true for IBM. We're not talking about some specific company here. Overall, we believe that this is the right way to treat this quantum threat. There is some probability that someone is doing this, building these strong quantum computers, and they're not going to tell us when they are going to be used for making breaches. Yeah, it would be nice if they send it to you by mail. Guys, we are ready. Yeah, we will start soon. Okay, we are starting. Yeah. And they will send an answer from your own laptop. Okay, talking about quantum technology in general. Well, talking about quantum technology in general, not only computing, so which are based on this quantum physics effects. So now they can be used in different fields, not only to build quantum computers, but for instance, you could build and develop and produce new types of sensors which can have high precision measurements, the ones which are not kind of possible to be done through classical sensors. And then you can use this platform in many other fields. You can distribute data using quantum technology. Well, it's not about using quantum internet as well. They call it. I don't believe it exists. Okay, they have a quantum antivirus. Yeah, that's what is a quantum virus? I wonder. But the cryptography keys, so we know how to share them using the quantum effect. So meaning that now in Russia we have some vendors who are doing it. We have a national program how to use quantum effects, how to spread cryptography keys through fiber optics. So only the key information can be spread. But today it will be the quickest and the most reliable way to distribute cryptography kind of keys between the data centers and backup centers. Yeah, and this is possible because we have quantum technology. And they're developing this in China. They have many industries which are using this at the industrial scale. So, in terms of quantum technologies, well, strange that might seem, the most interesting technology, well, would be quantum computing. Yeah, you're doing quantum computing, and so quantum computing is the most interesting. That's why I'm doing it. And the other things, they are not technologies at all. Yeah, I would say this is the only one. Yeah, the only one worth mentioning. Okay, I mean, this class of technologies is behind the other ones. I mean, in terms of quantum cryptography and quantum sensors. In terms of technological readiness, quantum sensors are much better applied. It's being applied at the industrial scale today, and here quantum computers need to catch up. Okay, we'll count on you, Kirill. Okay, what about the antiviruses? We don't have any antivirus. Okay, this is a myth. I have busted this myth. Okay, QLab's guy said that in Russia we don't have an antivirus against, well, quantum threats. Well, they have this in the quotation marks because we are not talking about an antivirus. So we can see a new kind of threat of developing cryptography which will protect us from traditional attacks and the attacks to come in the future with the use of quantum computers. It kind of means that globally, in Russia for sure, they're developing new algorithms, and the new algorithms are implemented, they are piloted, they use different information systems, video conferencing, banking, messengers, including remote video calls. But this is about piloting new cryptography algorithms. So this is not about a new antivirus. So we're talking about new algorithms. And so this piece of news here is not about the quantum technology at all. This is about the new mathematics. Okay, well, newspapers tell the truth, right? Okay, that's not the point. Okay, maybe it's not telling lies. But this is about new mathematics. Yeah, well, mathematics is not exactly new. The approaches to developing algorithms are changing because we have new computing solutions. Yeah, the answer is quite straightforward. The antivirus is not the best word for what they kind of mean here, but to an extent we might consider, yeah, this is in the quotation quotation marks. Maybe this would be quantum-inspired algorithms. Yeah, quantum-inspired algorithms. Yeah, this is great. Let's consider some other news.
Ученые обещают, что
Scientists
квантовая навигация
promise that quantum navigation will replace GPS. Well, I haven't read this piece of news. Frankly speaking, I don't understand what they're talking about. May I
она в тесте
kind of
находится,
mention
как бы.
that
Я иногда
now
вот
they're kind of
смотрю
testing it, you know?
навигатор,
On the
я
Tverskaya Street, I go to some superposition either to Vnukovo or to Vladikina. By the way,
100%.
yeah, that's running it in its test mode. I think you put it right.
Ну, вообще, знаете, я заметил, стало очень модно квантовое ко всем
Yeah,
существительным.
they just add quantum to everything. Yeah, quantum psychology. Yeah, it's pretty trendy. Well, these things are in no way connected.
Не-не-не,
Yeah,
ерунда.
it's cool. No, it's bullshit.
Когда ты считаешь,
Well,
что это
when you
популярно,
read some
постоянно приходят какие-то
popular lectures,
центр постоянно
we, the Russian Quantum Center, we receive calls and they say, we want to talk to Dima, so we want to consider the quantum fields. Okay, we'll send you. Yeah, we have a marathon on quantum psychology. Yeah, please join our marathon. Yeah, sure.
Ой, не, ну вообще на самом деле
Well,
хороший вопрос.
This is a good question, by the way. So what do they mean here? I may try to comment on this. Well, we have quantum sensors.
В тему новости, но в тему GPS точно.
This is related to the GPS at least. This is one of the types of quantum sensors. Would be a quantum nuclear clock. So what do we know? By the way, thanks to Albert Einstein, I think he is related to quantum technology this way. Albert Einstein came up with his general and specific relativity theory, where they have some fundamental things that gravitation. So these big things they impact the kind of speed of time. So this time here on the surface and on the orbit, it flows differently, and at any other point it flows differently because we have different gravitation. And GPS is impacted by the difference of the time flow there in the satellite and on the Earth, because we have one flow time and on the satellite it's a different way. But we determine our position based on the difference of these times, so to say. But, well, in the center of Moscow we have some gravitation anomalies, but, well, seriously speaking, the question is, can we determine our position more precisely? Yes, it is possible if we have a better understanding of our kind of time flow change when our position in space changes on the kind of first floor, on the fourth floor, and so on. And the kind of nuclear systems, they have this high precision functionality of determining the time kind of reference. And well, nuclear clock looks like, by the way, a quantum computer. You mean in terms of the cost? Well, I don't know. I don't build nuclear clocks, but I believe it's quite expensive. Well, I think Kirill is better equipped to mention this. Well, I think a quantum computer would be more demanding. Well, quantum technologies are usually somewhere in the basement, because there we have less vibration. Well, we have... So, yeah, they have this in the basement. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If we make this small nuclear clock and if we add it to the mobile phone and to the satellite, that will be really precise in determining the time references and will better understand our position. So we said 5 meters kind of precision, and now it's 1 centimeter. So you'll be there on your Tverskaya Street, if you like it. Okay, maybe you have a question. Maybe some people kind of misunderstood something. Maybe you didn't really understand some words. Okay, we have a person with a question. That's good. I think that's it. We are in the Q&A session. Okay, that's great. Thank you very much for a great discussion, talking about the business value. So, can we really perform some full tasks or some kind of remote solutions which will help us kind of reduce complexity?
Давайте я прокомментирую. Смотрите, вот
Okay, let me comment on this.
инвестирование в дома.
Well, investment in real estate. This is an NP full kind of problem.
В математике есть
In
некое понятие,
mathematics,
которое говорит о том, что если мы
we have a
сможем
notion
решить
that
хотя бы
if we
одну
can solve at least one problem of this type, then any other problem of this type of NP full can be kind of brought to this stage, and we can solve many practical tasks. And this is exactly why the quantum computers are being built. We also have quantum simulators and systems like that, well, simulate list, are bringing us closer to this.
Было достижение канадской компании D-Wave, у них не универсальный квантовый компьютер, немножко такая другая система.
Well, D-Wave from Canada, they have a specific computer. They managed to model a condition of the magnetic matter. And so this looks like the NP full task. But the question is whether it's an NP full task or not, whether we really need it there. This is a good question, and there are many mathematicians there. I recently talked about this, and they're trying to use some classical kind of approaches to this. So maybe they will somehow help us do this. And so maybe we'll be able to kind of do it for all NP full or NP complete or NP hard or whatever you call these tasks or problems. Okay, thank you very much.
В процессе сессии у меня возникли мысли во время обсуждения квантовой телепортации.
Okay, talking about quantum teleportation. You said that you can share information between two particles and it happens instantly. Hence the question.
Быстрее получается скорость света.
Is it faster than the speed of light?
И если передача информации
And if, well, this is possible, then how useful can it be in the space field, for instance? Okay, I'll be brief. When we kind of transfer this condition, we share the quantum information. So the quantum condition goes from one particle to the other. And for good or for bad, our world is such that following this transfer, we need to understand whether we have done it or not. And then the problem arises. Okay, to test this,
нам по классическому каналу связи все равно некую информацию.
We will need to exchange some information on the experiment through the classical channel. Say from me to you, if I developed the initial particle and you have the second one. Well, quantum information travels faster than the speed of light, but for you and I to get this information, you'll have to transfer some of the signal with the speed of light. And here we have Albert Einstein and all these classical physics barriers, so we cannot work around this in any way. So this will be of value for sure, but, well, I think we are talking about security here primarily. We can use this stuff for more secure data transfer because the open channel will not kind of exchange all the information of the system, but rather some information about it, about its features or change of features. And so I hope it was more or less clear. Thank you. Hello, thank you. That's exciting. My question. We have platforms like IBM Quantum Experience and some Microsoft Quantum product, and I believe that they are practically useful. I'd like to know your opinion on the systems. Are we kind of in any way moving in this direction? Okay, thank you. That's a great question. How to kind of make this quantum computing kind of functions available to consumers? Okay, these platforms some time ago started providing access to various quantum computers and their emulators, their digital twins, to let the business do some calculations, to let institutions run some research, and so on. What is happening in Russia, by the way? In Russia, we have the cloud quantum computing platforms. They help an individual, primarily the researcher, have remote access to the quantum computers in Russia and use them for some problem solving to generate some expertise. And in Russia, we have some educational platforms for quantum computing. You can remotely call through a messenger, like Kontakte. From Kontakte, this is a real example. You might call a remote digital twin of a quantum computer, use it to solve some problems for your labs to generate expertise. It wasn't there just 2 years ago, and it's there now. You can get your academic access for free to this. You can try and test it, and this is cool. This is bringing the technologies closer to the users. Well, physically, a quantum computer, in terms of how you set it, how you increase its capacity, it's a really sophisticated and complex system. Well, for an individual or for businesses, and then for individual users, so they need something they're used to as of now, and this remote access, and if you can do it through a messenger you are used to, kind of, is a good thing. Well, Amazon is fine, but we have our own in-house thing, which is definitely better. Yeah, that's him who has it in his basement. Okay. Okay. Now we are in this second quantum revolution. Yeah, the pill against death. Okay, we had the first one. Okay. 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 The first one was in 1948, the first transistor, which became the foundation of all electronics. 1958 and 1960, the first laser. Do they call it the first quantum revolution? Okay, the collective quantum effect. So the first quantum revolution is the collective quantum effect, and the second is the individual quantum effect. So when we deal with quantum computers, we talk about the individual effect. One atom, one qubit. Okay. Well, it's not something which happened in 1970 on a given day. No, I'm talking, now we are in this fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, I remember I marched on the streets for this revolution, to celebrate this revolution. Yeah, we have kind of three strong quantum computing, quantum cryptography, and quantum sensors. So we have three major pillars which will give us real advantage. And they are possible because the world, the academia, now can find these individual quantum effects and to an extent understand them. Okay, we not exactly single them out. So in the 20th century, people managed to single out these quantum particles, but now we can make arrays of quantum entities, and each of them, each of this entity in this array makes feel kind of the others the way we want. So we had some transistors. Okay, we have the current there, right? And we don't care what happens to each individual electron. Okay, but in Kirill's cellar or basement, everything is much more interesting. Yeah, we will invite you to Kirill, and please join our quantum psychology marathon. This is a joke. Thank you for your attention. I beg your pardon. May I ask you just one final question? Please do. Okay, what's the problem now? for the quantum computers? Is the problem that we don't have powerful computers, or is the problem that we don't have enough mathematics? Okay, we'll ask Kirill to answer this question.
Смотрите, ответ и да, и да.
Well,
С одной стороны, нужно,
both.
с одной стороны,
On one
нужно
hand,
увеличивать мощность
we need
квантового компьютера, с
to
другой
make
стороны,
quantum
нужно
computers
придумать
more
новые
powerful. On the other hand, we need new algorithms. But these are kind of problems.
плюс-минус понятно.
The concept of the quantum computer is more or less clear. There are many questions here related to engineering and how the technology is going to let us achieve some effects. Time, money, and the work of
Простите, смотрите.
experts in physics.
Следующий вопрос обсудим за
Okay, let's discuss the next question offline. It's time for us to wind up. Thank you very much.